Markets on edge amidst the Federal Reserve's open market committee, Coinbase going international, more banks falling today, all the while Bitcoin fixes all of it. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Crypto Capital Venture. Please hit the subscribe and like on the way in. Let's dive into the video. We're going to take a glance at the Bitcoin charts, but we've been looking a lot at the Bitcoin charts lately. It's kind of driving me insane a little bit. So we're going to definitely take a glance. I noticed something on the daily I wanted to point out to you, as we have kind of a volatile, iffy week this week, but there's a lot of other things to cover. And I want to just start here. This is what's kind of going on right now. Traders are anxiously awaiting the Federal Reserve's Open Market Committee meeting that begins Tuesday morning and ends Wednesday afternoon with a statement and press conference from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. The FOMC is expected to raise its main U.S. interest rate, the funds rate, by 0.25%. While this is going on, and this is really what motivated me to do this video, there's something else that just happened. It's kind of just breaking. So we have all of this anticipation with the Federal Reserve meeting, but I just came across this tweet. And this just happened just a little bit ago. Just in regional banks, bank stocks are plunging, with multiple stocks down 20+% in a matter of minutes. So we have this just breaking today. We have the Federal Reserve meeting, there's going to be a lot of volatility, I think, in the markets. And we have, if you look at this, S&P 500 on the daily, it is down. What I noticed, though, and this is what I just wanted to bring up, and I think it's just a very, very zoomed in short-term kind of example of the whole Bitcoin fixes this narrative. So check this out. While this was happening, this tweet broke like not long ago at all, I went to the Bitcoin chart, and I actually went to a 5-minute chart. And I just want to show you something. I'm going to zoom in on the 5-minute. Basically, while that news broke, Bitcoin, and I'm not saying this is going to be a long-lasting thing, but when that news broke about the banks falling, Bitcoin on the 5-minute, just a nice tick to the upside. I'm not saying that is, going to continue even in the short term, but that move right there, I think, is a demonstration of, on the long term, how markets, particularly crypto and Bitcoin, will react to this failing of the financial system. That's a short-term reflection of, I think, what we will see in the long term. And I don't know exactly if this move, because this is a 5-minute chart and this is right around when that news was breaking. I don't know if it's because of of that news that this is why Bitcoin made that little move. But I thought it was very interesting to see. And even in the short term, it will be interesting to see how it continues, if it continues. And I wanted to point that out. So that's number one. And so the other thing is, we do have the FOMC meeting. Markets seem convinced the Federal Reserve will deliver one more quarter-point hike Wednesday before a lengthy pause. And this is kind of where the charts come in. And then we're going to discuss Coinbase. You're probably going to see a lot of just things floating around. Man, Coinbase leaving the US. But I want to show you some important context to this story, which kind of alludes to the fact that it's not that big of a deal what they're doing. It's actually very much expected. So let's look at the Bitcoin chart as it kind of pertains to the situation that we're in this week with the quarter-point hike that is likely. This is Bitcoin on the daily, or this is Bitcoin on the daily. I wanted to point this out. We've been covering Bitcoin so much on the short term, and it has been just in crazy consolidation, like kind of in this upper trend line region, right? If we go to let's change this back to a 6-hour chart, we can see the volatility, right, on the 6-hour in between these patterns, this rising channel on the shorter to midterm and the rising channel on the longer term. So we're kind of just stuck in between those two areas, the consolidation range. But what I wanted to say is, if you go to the daily chart, this is what I found interesting. And this just plays into the whole concept of nobody really has any idea which way we're about to break. But this upper trend line I found interesting because I've struggled with it. If you take it all the way back to this swing high where it starts in November, there's kind of a couple ways to put it, right? We can have it where it is, this trend line, and we can say, man, Bitcoin's really just falling below that trend line, hitting the 50-day moving average, and now failing at the 50-day moving average. But the other thing is this, if you actually, and it really depends on what chart you're on, what exchange you're using in terms of the charts and how you chart. But if we actually go back and we say, all right, that initial swing high to this swing high is the start of the trend, and we place this trend line kind of right there, we can just see Bitcoin actually still above that trend line, right? So there is this back and forth, this tug of war in terms of, well, even in the rising channel, the higher highs, the higher lows of Bitcoin, what's the setup? Are we still actually above support, or are we more below support? And that's really a charting thing. And even if we put it there, I mean, Bitcoin is just testing that area of resistance or of support. So that's something I'm tracking on the short term, but I thought that was a really perfect picture to say that not only when I'm doing my videos, it's just me visualizing upside and downside scenarios, but just in general. Nobody in Bitcoin, crypto, even outside of crypto and financial markets, the top gurus you see on TV picking stocks and calling stocks, nobody knows what is going to happen next. And I think that's a perfect illustration. We use the charts as a guide, absolutely. But in terms of just identifying how are markets really going to react to these shorter term events that are happening over and over again. And don't forget, we're talking about the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee, but what we haven't even talked about is May 10th. This is 8 days away. We have this in play, right, for next week, which is the inflation data coming out. What does that look like? So markets have a lot going on right now, and I think we can absolutely continue to track the short term, right? And this is what it looks like. It's going to be very interesting to see if Bitcoin kind of makes the move back to this trend line up into the 31,000 region, or if we're actually going to break down, really break support that we're at right now and fall into this higher low, longer term support area all the way down in maybe the $24,000 region. It's just something to anticipate and be ready for. But the crypto news that's happening right now, I think, is important. And one of those is this. Today, Coinbase launched Coinbase International Exchange and will begin by offering Bitcoin and ETH perpetual futures settled in USDC with up to 5x leverage to institutional clients. That's crazy. 5x leverage to institutional clients in eligible jurisdictions outside of the US. Let me explain why this isn't. We might see headlines, man, Coinbase is leaving US. This is over for the US. We might start seeing like that vibe, that narrative. This is why I think that's not right. If we just look at this, introducing Coinbase International Exchange, in executing on the next chapter of the company's Go Deep, Go Broad global expansion strategy, Coinbase International Exchange brings the safest, most trusted name in crypto to the global derivatives market. There's the article from today, May 2nd, 2023. But they have this expansion strategy, right? And they link to it. And if you look at it, that article is from last May, almost a year ago, lighting up the map, how Coinbase plans to scale globally. So if you just remember a year ago, things in terms of the United States, we were not as fearful in terms of just all the regulators kind of attacking crypto and driving innovation abroad. We were not as fearful in terms of that happening. Coinbase was not evaluating kind of just leaving the US at the time, really, right? And so the thing is, they were evaluating going international. So what we see here coming out in the headlines, they're introducing international exchange. This is something that they didn't do overnight because they're being attacked by SEC and they're in this huge thing with them. This is obviously something that has been planned for quite some time. Coinbase, and this is from around a year ago, Coinbase will adopt a go broad and go deep approach to scale globally in order to further its mission of bringing more economic freedom to each and every individual and business around the world. Leadership roles are now open across the globe to build our international presence. I run a recruiting firm, Coinbase. Let us know if we can help. So that's that, everybody. And I just wanted to throw that out there. So we might see the fear headlines in terms of Coinbase is leaving. Look, it's happening. But this has been in the works, right? Prior to even just the massive, massive attack most recently, even in the last few months or so. So I wanted to point that out. We'll continue to tracking Bitcoin. If there's a worthwhile move, we'll definitely be doing kind of a more broad technical analysis. But this entire just move recently back, to when we broke above the trend line mid-March, this is like a month and a half. This entire thing it's been tough to track. Talk about volatility. Just we're at the same price point that we were a month and a half ago, and it can go either direction. My thing is, as I track this journey, as I track my own crypto portfolio, and I use Bitcoin as a roadmap for that, my thing is just being prepared for every scenario. So let me know how you're doing out there. I hope you're having a good start to the week. I will see you all in the next video. Please hit the subscribe and like. Have a great day. God bless.